Hey guys, my name's Evan. Welcome to Country View Acres. So in between all of the rain that we're getting, I finally finished out this section of raised beds. So the other day I had this section right here framed up, and now I've got these last three raised beds all framed. And now we're to the point of installing the corrugated roofing that I bought. I bought galvanized corrugated roofing, and we're gonna install it like on the sides here. It's actually going to go on the inside, and it's going to close this all off completely and close it in so it holds in all the soil. And I think that galvanized corrugated metal on the sides really going to make this pop. You know, it's really going to look good when it's done. So let's go ahead. We're going to have to start cutting out, take some measurements, and then start cutting out all the pieces to put them in there. So I'm just going to take a measurement here at the top, and then I'll probably make the piece about a 1/2 inch smaller. That way it easily fits in. Of course, all this metal is wet from being out here in the rain. So to cut this galvanized roofing, I'm going to use my nibbler. This is the first time I've got to use it. So what a nibbler is there's basically like a little cylinder in here, and it moves up and down, and you got to think of it like a hole punch, except it's like a really fast hole punch. So as you're trying to start cutting on this, it'll cut out like little half circles or like little crescent moons. As it moves along, it'll just keep on like biting off little nibbles. Thus the nibbler, right? And so the thing about this is it can follow the contour of the galvanized roofing fairly easily and not get jammed up or stuck or anything like that. And then all of the little pieces that it pops out all go into this little baggie right here. Can you hear that? I've already tested it out. I've done a couple cuts already just to see how it works. And I'm pretty impressed with it. It works pretty slick. I think this was an auto. I'm going to go ahead and turn it up to the fast speed. Just got some 1-inch roofing screws to attach this. So this little corner down here is touching the post, the old post. I'm gonna cut it off a little bit, trim it. That looks pretty good. All right, I got the first panel on. Doesn't look bad. I don't think that looks too bad at all. So that first piece didn't go too bad. So I think this corrugated metal, I shouldn't probably speak too soon, but I think this is probably gonna go quicker than the rest of it. Well, there's more boards down here that are braces that are in the way than I thought. I'm gonna have to probably cut out some boards. I'm probably gonna have to notch a little bit on these pieces. So I need to take back exactly what I just said a minute ago. This may go a little bit slower than I thought. darn good. All right, it's time to empty out the little bag on the nibbler. Let's see what these chips look like. Oh yeah, they look like little crescent moons. Yeah, you can see the little chips from the nibbler look like little crescent moons. That's what it does. So it's the next day now, and it took me about 3 hours this morning to finish up putting on all of the corrugated metal. And I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's looking pretty good so far. There's corrugated metal on the very ends as well. So it still looks a little bit funny because you can see the corrugated metal on the inside. And I'm pretty sure once we get this all finished up that I don't think we're gonna see the metal from the inside anymore. I think we're just gonna see these panels here on the outside. And since we built this on top of the old raised beds, you can tell it stair steps down the hill since this area isn't level. So before we start the fun job of trying to fill up these raised beds, there's one more thing that we have to do. And the reason is once we fill this up with all of the soil, all that weight is going to want to push on this, and it's going to want, these boards are going to want to bow outward, and we want to try to keep this as straight as possible. So I'm planning on putting a 2x6 flat on the top all the way around the edge. It'll trim it out, it'll make it look good. It'll almost be like a little shelf along the edge. But with that board being attached flat on here, it'll help stiffen this one up and it'll keep it from bowing out. So I think this is going to achieve two different things. One, it's going to like trim out the top. It'll kind of finish it out so that it looks nice, but then it'll also just stiffen everything up as well. Probably go ahead and start on this corner, and then that board is going to sit on there, something like that. Go ahead and just put a 45 degree on the end. And I think I'm gonna let this overhang about the width of a 2x4, so I can just take this cut off and put it on here and make it to where it's pretty well even. And I think that'll be an easy way to just space everything out. All right, I just finished up. So I've got all of the wood trim on top of the raised beds. Then I got all my tools picked up and all the cut off pieces of wood thrown away. And that took me about 5 hours. It didn't go smoothly. A lot of these, when I was trying to cut out the pieces, it took me several cuts, several tries to get everything to fit together, because the original raised beds that we built off of, they weren't square. They were, one side may have been a little bit longer than the other. So when I was trying to cut these mitered corners, which we have a mitered corner everywhere it steps up and everywhere it steps down. So there's, I don't know, there's probably like 6 sets of these. And it was hard to get these where you had a nice clean joint here and no big gaps. So I know it's just a raised bed. People are going to tell me I shouldn't worry about it. But when I build something, I try to build it where I'm proud of it, right? I want to build it to where I am happy with the way it all turned out. And building this has been like remodeling an old house. Our previous house was built in 1904, and when we remodeled it, nothing was square, everything was uneven, and you know, it just makes it more difficult. And that's exactly how this was. So as we step back and look at this, I'm very happy with the way it all turned out. It was a lot of work. I think I've got like 4 or 5 days in this so far just trying to get this built. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. I think it's pleasing to the eye. Now we just got to get it to where we get these filled full and get some plants planted in here. And that's probably going to be about as much work as we've already done. It's going to be a big job trying to get this all filled in and then getting some potting soil on the very top and getting plants in here. This is a big job. If somebody was wanting to do something like this, what I would say is only do maybe 1 or 2 at a time. I've got a total of like about 8 raised beds here, and this is a big job. So I'm not going to fill these raised beds up all the way to the top with soil. I want to find a bunch of organic material to put in here instead that'll slowly break down and turn into soil over time. So what I want to do, first of all, I want to grab the tractor. I'm going to go over to the firewood shed, and I've got a pile of old firewood there that's been sitting out for years, and it's pretty rotten. Not any good for burning anymore. And see if we can take that firewood and start filling up these raised beds with it. Well, I don't want to dent up my brand new metal. Be careful. What is that? Is that a snake? It's like a baby snake. So it's the next day now, and it took me about 1.5 hours this morning to finish this up. So I've got all of the raised beds about half full of rotten logs. Hopefully you can see them all filled up. And as we go this direction, I started to run a little bit low. You can see it gets a little bit thinner as it gets down to that end. So as I was going through all of that wood, really the wood on top was about all I could use. Anything touching the ground was so infested with like ants and bugs that I didn't want to like transfer them into my raised beds. So I tried not to use any of the things that were full of bugs. And while I was sitting there going through it, I even saw like a yellow jacket like go into one of the logs, and I was like, okay, I am not gonna pick up that log for sure. And then I was a little bit leery the whole time, making sure I didn't run into a snake or some kind of bees or something like that. But I think I've got as much wood in here as I can. So the next thing I want to put in is sawdust. And I've got 6 bags of sawdust here from the workshop. Most of this is from the planer and the table saw. And this will be just a good way to get rid of it and help fill in the voids around a lot of those logs. that actually works really well. Well, I wish I had more than 6 bags because this stuff actually works really good. It like filters right through all the voids. Well, those 6 bags of sawdust only really filled 2 raised beds, but man, that worked good. So now the next thing to add into the raised beds is not going to be a fun job, but I'm going to go over to the livestock barn and clean out the stalls. So there's a bunch of straw in there from when we had the baby sheep and their mamas in there. And there's some manure mixed in, but it's mostly straw. And I think it'll make a good filler as well. Well, this isn't exactly what I was going for, but it needs picked up. So that pile outside was from one of the last times we cleaned out the barn. It's got rained on, it's like super wet already. This is the stuff that I really wanted to get where the sheep were in here. This is a lot drier and looser, and I think it'll help fill in the beds a little bit better. But that stuff needs cleaned up. I'm gonna put it in the deepest raised bed so it's as far down as possible, and then we'll cover that up with this drier stuff. All right, I got the barn stalls all cleaned out, and that was enough to fill up 3 of the raised beds and then about a partial on a 4th. Well, that wasn't a fun job, but it needed to be done. So I was able to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and now I still have a few more of these raised beds to add more to. And the one thing that I have a lot of is hay. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna grab one of the partial round bales that's been out in the field for a while, and see if we can fill these up the rest of the way. All right, I've got all of the raised beds filled up almost to the top with hay, and I don't think it'll take too much topsoil or potting soil to fill them up the rest of the way. But I do have 2 bags of potting soil over there. I'm gonna go ahead and dump them out in here and just kind of get an idea of how much it's gonna take so I know roughly how much to buy. I know it's gonna compress all of this hay. There'll be more here to put in than you think. Oh yeah, it's gonna take quite a bit to fill this up. One of these beds, it's gonna take probably 10. That's a lot. Yeah, that's still gonna be quite a bit of potting soil to put in here. So I think what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna put the bucket back on the tractor. I'm gonna go over the compost pile and see if I can somehow get into the bottom of it where there's some good compost, and maybe put like a bucket in each one of these raised beds, and that'll probably help out a bunch. I was able to come up with 4 or 5 buckets of compost, and I got them put here in the raised beds. Now, the raised beds that had only hay and logs, that dry hay compressed a lot, and it just is gonna require a lot more soil. Now, the ones that had the sawdust in them, or like the wet straw from the barn, those didn't compress as bad, so it's not gonna take as much soil for them. But no matter how you look at it, it's going to be a lot of potting soil to fill these up. So I think it's time to go ahead and run to town, get a truckload. All right, I just finished filling up the garden beds with potting soil, and I've got them right up to the top boards. So I've tried to get them filled up as high as I could, because all of this is going to settle. Once we water it, and then over time, this will probably settle. I won't be surprised if this settles like 6 inches or so. And we'll probably have to add some more potting soil next year, but I think it all turned out really good. Yeah, so the only thing left now is we're gonna have to go ahead and get some plants in here. So I'm gonna head down to the basement. I'm gonna grab our seedlings, and we'll see if we can get them planted. All right, I got all our plants in the ground except for our peppers and tomatoes, and I'll have to clean out these lower raised beds on this side and get them planted over here. But what we got in the garden, we've got cilantro, we've got some basil, that's some celery there. I think that's some parsley. We got different types of lettuce through here. We got some kale, some more kale. This is cabbage. We've got one type of, you can't hardly see them. Got one type of onions here. We've got another type of onions right there. Of course, there's my peppers and tomatoes I need to plant. And then right here, we've got broccoli through here. Probably a little late for broccoli, but oh well, might as well plant them. And then I think right here, we're gonna probably put strawberries, make this a strawberry bed. And then I've still got a little bit of space left right here. We'll probably go buy some herbs or some other plants to put there. But yeah, I'm pretty happy. That went really well. Like, that was the easiest planting I've ever done. I didn't have to bend over or nothing. It was just, and plus just having potting soil, everything's nice and loose, easy to plant. It'll be easy to weed as well. So this ended up being a big job. Probably way about twice as big as what I thought it was gonna be. But I think in the end, I know it's a lot of work. I'm gonna get a lot of probably comments about how much I spent and how much I worked on this. But the plan is, hopefully I'll get to use this for like at least 10 years, and it'll make gardening easier. It'll make it more enjoyable. It'll make it more manageable. Our garden used to be a fairly good size, and we were successful the first probably 3 years or so, but then the more and more livestock that we got, and then we started cutting hay, and we took on so much more that the garden, it was hard for us to keep up with the garden. So now we're trying to make it to where it will be more manageable in the future and sized more appropriately for what we're wanting to do. All right, that's all I'm gonna do in the garden today. So now I need to head out, check the animals, do the evening chores. So right now the heifers are laying out here in the pasture. So let's go check on them. We'll see how much they ate the grass down. Well, the grass in some spots here is almost waist high. Look at all that clover right there. There's a bunch of clover through here. So right here is where we'll move them to next. And then as we step over here, there's still quite a bit out here for them to eat. Hi Ellie, how are you doing? You doing good? You like it out here in this nice field, don't you? So here's Oliver, the little bull, and Mo, the ram. They've become little buddies. They hang out all the time together. And here's Maya laying down. You got some flies on you, sweetheart. Get these flies off of you. How you doing? Well, just looking at this, I still think they've got a good 2-3 days of forage out here before I need to move them. So probably can wait till this weekend. So right now they have grazed from the trees down there all the way to here, but then we still have got to go all the way down there. So I think we're only about 1/3 of the way down to the end of the field. So these guys aren't gonna be able to keep up with this stuff. So this is the first time that we've really had more forage than the livestock can keep up with. So we are planning on expanding the herd. We're gonna try to buy some more heifers and we're gonna try to get some more steers. I just don't know how many yet, but we may end up getting, I don't know, 3 to 6 more, somewhere in there. So if we end up getting 6 more, which is probably the most we'll get, that means we'll be up to like 9 cattle. So that'll be a pretty good start, I think, for our herd. So I moved the pig feed troughs up here because the other side was so muddy. But they are moving them around up here, so I'll probably have to stake them to the ground. Oh man, can you not step in that, please? Thank you. All right, piggies. Hey, piggies. Oh, scared you. Yeah, you're too into eating. You didn't even know I was standing here. Well, the sheep heard me, so they came over. Of course, you know what they want, especially you, Larry. Yeah, I'll get you some feed. So right now we've only had 3 ewes have lambs, but we're pretty sure all the rest are bagging up right now. So we're supposed to go on vacation in like a week. So our luck, all these other ones are gonna start having their babies when we're on vacation. Do not try to eat out of this bucket. No, don't. Larry, back up. Hello, little babies. Man, it's hard to... Oh, you got him away. I really need to get a feed trough because feeding these guys is pure chaos. Been meaning to build one, but haven't got to yet. So with us going on vacation in about a week, Rebecca's parents, they're gonna be staying here the whole time we're gone and keeping an eye on everything. So what we're gonna focus on over the next few days, we're gonna try to get everything where it goes as smooth as possible. We're gonna try to get all the floats back on the water troughs so that the water auto-fills. We're gonna try to get all the feed stocked up. We're gonna probably open the entire pasture up to these guys so that they have plenty of forage the entire time we're gone so they don't have to worry about moving them. We're gonna try to do, I guess, everything we can think of to make it easier on them while they watch our place, because we took like a miniature vacation, like a 3-day long vacation, like a couple years ago, but we haven't taken a week long, like a full week vacation since like 2016. So it's been 9 years. So we're ready for it. We're ready for a little bit of a break. Isn't that right, Maya? Yeah. Yeah, I know. I know. You gonna miss us when we're gone? Yeah. But anyway, guys, it's been a long 3 days working on that garden, trying to get those raised beds done so that I can have it behind me and have plants in the ground, you know, plants planted so that the garden is, it's started. It's not 100% complete, but I am very happy to have that in the rearview mirror, that's for sure. But I think that's going to be it for today's video, guys. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.